We'd like to call this meeting to order. This is the County Commission meeting.
Recording in progress.
Dated July 12th today, 10 a.m. That little deal on my monitor just switched over. So we'd like to welcome you. Our Pledge of Allegiance today will be given by Tammy Adelot. I'm sorry, Tammy. Our invocation will be given by Christopher Crockett, and thought of the day by Commissioner Harvey. So Tammy, we'll go to you first.
Our Father in heaven, we bow our heads at the beginning of this commission meeting to offer up our gratitude unto Thee for the many blessings which we have. We are so grateful to live in this country and enjoy the freedoms that we do, to live in this beautiful state and in this wonderful county. We are grateful for the positions that we have been put in of trust, where we are able to think about the lives of those we serve and to strive to find ways to improve those lives. We ask that Thy Spirit will be with us always and provide opportunities for us to serve throughout this week. And we ask for these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Commissioners, as we in the state of Utah approach our celebration of when we were formed and when the pioneers landed in this valley, I wanted to just do a recognition just briefly to the people who have spent so much time and energy making sure that that tradition stays alive, stays good. You know, Salt Lake has their Days of 47 celebration, and it's been a great celebration, but especially in Ogden, we have our Pioneer Days celebration. And while that's not a county, necessarily a county-produced event, the city of Ogden produced it for well over 100 years. I'm reminded of this last night on the 11th of July, the Monday, couple of Mondays before, they have the horse and hitch parade. It happened up and down this street right here, just right outside our window here, and it was a wonderful, wonderful little parade. It doesn't go for very long, but it still captures the heritage of Weber County. There's a lot of other activities here in the tonight. There's a kids rodeo that'll take place at the stadium, and then there's more events. The Cowboy Hall of Fame takes place in a couple of nights, and then, well, of course, the rodeo takes place because the 24th of July falls on a Sunday. It'll take place on the final night takes place on Monday the 25th, with the Saturday, Friday, Thursday, and Wednesday before that, the 4 days before. Then the final culmination of that was the 25th this year. One of the things the county does to participate that, and we've done that since the inception of the Golden Spike Event Center, is we do the horsemanship and a lot of the things dealing with Miss Rodeo Utah. We have the Miss Rodeo Ogden earlier, usually in May, but the Miss Rodeo Utah will be crowned on that night. And it provides a good, safe place for those contestants to come and participate in those activities. And so just as we get ready, I know that as we're coming down to the wire, I hope that all of us will remember that pioneer heritage and just embrace that. That's who we are. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Harvey and Mr. Crockett and Tammy. We appreciate you all for helping today. Item E on our agenda today is public comment. We'd like to welcome the public to comment on anything that's on the agenda today. Yes, ma'am. Please step forward. State your name and the town in which you live.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Jan Fulmer. I live in Eden, Utah, which you probably know by now. Just a couple of questions. Number one, you are supposed to be appointing members to both the Weber the Western Weber County Planning Commission as well as the Ogden Valley Planning Commission today. May I please ask how many applications you received for the Ogden Valley Planning Commission, and are those candidates directly involved as builders or with the construction industry?
That specific item on our agenda is being held till next week.
Commissioner, I'm sorry, I didn't.
I say that specific item on our agenda is being held to next week.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see any amended agenda that came out. Okay. Well, can I ask the question as to, as of this date, if you've received applications and how
Chair,
many?
I'm happy to
Go ahead.
address that. So I believe that at least the list that I saw, we received 13, and we have Rick Grover, is that correct? 13 applications. One of the reasons that it's not being addressed is that we're in the process of vetting those, looking at backgrounds, asking questions. We anticipate either in the next 10 to 14 days we'll be interviewing and then making a selection.
Okay, Commissioner, thank you. Thank you for that. I appreciate it.
But there are 13 that were submitted on time. I don't know if, but that's the ones the deadline was July 7th, and I think those all were timely, met the application. But we're going through the vetting process because the number was so high this time. We're making sure that we interview, questions are going to be asked. We want the most qualified people appointed to that commission.
Okay, thank you. And when another position becomes available, do those applicants have to apply again, or do they still remain on the list?
Rick, can you answer that?
I can.
Oh, go ahead, Commissioner Harvey.
You correct me if I'm wrong, Rick, but they have to reapply. Although we keep their applications, Jan, while we keep their applications, they do have to reapply because the time between when they applied the first time and the second time, things change in people's lives.
That's correct.
And so they're not always available the second time around, but we do keep those applications in case they do reapply. Where did I make a misquote on that, Rick?
And we reach out to the previous applicants every time and ask if they would like to apply.
Okay, that's good. Thank you very much for that. Second question, an item on the agenda is a planned residential unit development called the Winston Park Subdivision. Where on earth is that in Weber County?
Rick? Or Tammy?
That I don't know.
It's located in the Western Weber planning area at 3701 West, 1800 South.
Okay. Tammy, thank you. I couldn't find it. I Googled the death out of the name, and I still couldn't find it. Okay. I do have one question. It's not on the agenda. It is something that came up yesterday, I believe, at your work session. Could I please ask that question?
Go ahead.
After
Normally, in situations like this, we're not here to answer,
well,
you know.
knowing that there was gross miscommunication relating to this back in the spring, in constant communication I've had with Scott Paxman and Jared Anderson, right now the public presentation on the Ogden Valley water study and the septic system study is due around the 27th or the 28th of this month. I had requested people to reconsider that date so there would be time to put it in the Ogden Valley News, which only comes out twice a month, the 15th and the 1st. So if it was rescheduled for the first week in August, there would be more than sufficient time for people to get the notification. I do not know if you can confirm that that's the date for the public presentation. I will tell you that many of the residents in Ogden Valley have been waiting for this. It was originally supposed to be delivered to the public in February, and I do know why they have been behind. Both Scott Paxman and Jared Anderson have been very upfront with some of the challenges they've run into.
Right.
So,
well, in the sewer study, that's been a moving target up there recently.
yes.
So, as negotiations have happened. Didn't we schedule that for the 27th? Yeah, that's what I thought. And isn't that going to be held in this commission chamber? Yeah, I'm sorry.
So right now it's scheduled for the 27th. We are working with Shanna Francis and the Ogden Valley newspaper. They're trying to move the publication date up, so it'll be on the 25th, so we would get that information out to the public. We are running into a little problem with the venue. They are painting and doing some things in the Snowcrest Junior High auditorium, or in the gym. And so we're trying to work something out in another area there or at the elementary school. And so those are a few things that we're working out right now.
Can't we go to the library?
That's a possible option too. We just want to make sure we have enough room for the folks. So we're kind of vetting those things out. Is this Mike? We're trying to vet a few of those things out right now.
We've met up there before, and they have a big space.
Yeah.
Pretty big space. All right. All right. There you go.
That's all. Thank you very much for
Thank you.
allowing me to ask that.
Appreciate it. Others who care to comment today on items on the agenda? Yes, ma'am.
Does that also include your action items yet to come?
Yeah, specifically that.
Okay.
Pull that mic down. Thank you.
My name is Cindy Winham. I was present on election night and watched the machines, watched the entire process, did not see when the thumb drives came out of the machine. The two ladies who ran the machine to download the votes said to me, "You will not be able to watch us because we have to put in the password, but when we're done getting the password and the program uploaded, we'll then turn the TV on for you to watch the process." And I said, "Thank you." They went in and turned the computer on, and boom, the TV was on right there. And they put in the password, which was all the dots. It didn't tell me anything. I didn't care. First screen that came up was an election page that had from Mike Lee all the way down, and I focused on Blake Moore, Andrew Badger, and Tina Cannon. Saw 9,000 some odd votes on Blake Moore, 3,000 some odd votes on Andrew Badger, 1,000 some odd votes on Tina Cannon. The lady who was observing with me said, "Huh, there's numbers there." I turned to Ricky Hatch and said, "Where did those numbers come from?" He stuttered, he stammered, he said, "We had enough votes that we were able to do an early count on, I think, Friday." Now, he had told Daniel Bedell around 6 o'clock that evening the machines had been calibrated by the ASNL or ASNS people and that they had not been used or touched, and they would not be started until after 8 o'clock voting, and that they would not start any voting whatsoever. And I just looked at him and thought, okay, we now know who's going to win the primary. It's already been preloaded. At the canvass last Tuesday, we had to wait in the hall until 10 o'clock in the morning, and when we entered at 10 o'clock in the morning, we said, "Do we get to choose the batches? Who gets to choose the batches?" And Ricky said, "Deidre Henderson has already chosen them." So the first 250, which is one batch, went through, and and I kept counting. I thought, well, it's easier to count Andrew Badger votes because that's who I personally voted for. 41 out of 250, which is 15%, not quite what the outcome of the primary election said. And then the next batch that came up for the remaining 53, they voted, or they audited 303 ballots out of 30,300. So it's a 1% audit. That had a lot more Andrew Badger votes in it. And the first thing Ricky said when they started on the last 53 was, "Oh, that's Hooper." And I said, "How did you know?" "Because it's done by numbers, and Deidre has chosen them." And he said, "Well, I know the precinct numbers." I asked him, "Well, who was the first 250? "Oh, I didn't notice." Gentlemen, where those first batches came from matters. We know that Blake Moore was born and raised in South Ogden. I'm going to question the canvass you're going to do today, and I don't trust it, I don't believe it. I watched 2 different times dishonesty, lies, and suspicion. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you. We appreciate that. What was your name again?
Cindy Wyndham.
Cindy Winham.
Thanks, Cindy. I appreciate that. So Ricky isn't here today. Lynn, can you comment on that?
Defer if you'd like us to comment in response during the public comment section.
Well, you're first item up. So let's go ahead and do the consent items, then we'll come back to you.
If you'd like to close public comment, just wondering process-wise how you'd like to proceed.
We're going to go ahead and go to other public comments, and then you're the very first item up, so you can answer that question when we get to that. Others that care to comment? Very good. We'll close that and go to consent items. The consent items today are listed as, first ones are the warrants for $1,824,806. Second item is the purchase orders for $122,829,000. Would you like to give us a summary on those, Lynn?
I would love to. And just one quick mention, Ricky Hatch is out of state at an auditors conference today. Otherwise, he would love to be here.
You bet.
We had 8 purchase orders totaling $122.8 thousand. The largest of these, $37,600 or 31% of the jail for nitrile gloves, uniform materials, and correction software. $32.7 thousand or 27% of the library for replacement computers, roof modification for HVAC replacement. We had $28,000 or 23% to property management for 30-inch pipe for the 7500 West Stormwater project, and $20,000 or 16% to the Sheriff's Office for a UAV drone subscription. We had 144 warrants totaling $1.8 million. Largest of these, $916,000 or 50% went to medical insurance, and $356,000 or 20% were ramp funds distributed to 6 different municipalities and other entities. And everything else was less than 10%.
Very good. Commissioners, got any questions on these?
None for me.
None.
I'd accept a motion then. Oh, well, let's keep going. Very good, thanks. So, item 4 are the ACH payments from U.S. Bank for $238,216. Item 5 is a request for the new business licenses. Item 6 is a request for approval to sell Weber County surplus property as is identified in parcel 04-002-00. That was single 022-0016 to Millet Enterprises. Item 7 is a request for approval of real estate purchase and sales agreement by and between Weber County and Richard Heyer for parcel 11-044-0025. There you go. Item 8 is a request for approval of new contracts by and between Weber County and Matthew Schechter. Thank you. Sorry. To appoint an administrative law judge under Code 17-33-415 to hear appeals, employment appeals referred to by the Weber County Career Services Council. And item 9 is a request for approval of contracts by and between Weber County and the following entities for 24-hour surveillance of ballot boxes: Harrisville City, Weber State University, Ogden City, and Roy City. Item 10 is a request for the Weber County Library to approval of surplus property equipment. Item 11 is a request for Weber County Health Department for approval to surplus 2 medical-grade refrigerators. Item 12, request for approval of a contract by between Weber County and Discovery Communications for filming at the Weber County Sheriff's Office. Commissioners, those are our consent items. Any questions?
No, not for me.
None from me, Mr. Chair, and with that, I'll make the motion that we approve the consent items 1 through and including 12 as presented.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. That's approved. Item G1 today is the Weber County Board Canvas. Lauren Schaefer, why don't you come up and make the presentation, and then we'll ask some questions. And go ahead.
Great. I'm Lauren Schaefer. I'm the Weber County Elections Director, and I'm here to present the canvass. So our election was on June 28th of 2022. We sent out 68,826 ballots to active registered voters. We received 29,533 back, which is about 42.9%. Our by-mail votes were the largest form of returns. And then, let's see. I'm required to tell you why some of our ballots were not counted. So our ballots not counted, we had 200. 140 of those signatures did not match the voter record. 43 of those returned unsigned, and 17 of those were signed by someone other than the voter. Our provisional ballot summary is also attached. We had 52 provisional ballots cast. Of those 52, 45 were counted. The 7 that were not counted were wrong party affiliation, meaning they weren't Republican or non-party, or they weren't the right Republican Party for this primary. I want to compare some of these results to our 2018 election, which was our last election that was not a presidential, where we had a similar race because Mitt Romney was on the ballot. Our turnout in 2018 was at 54%. This year it was at 41%. Our turnout, our nonpartisan turnout, excuse me, that was our Republican turnout. Our nonpartisan turnout in 2018 was 14. Our nonpartisan turnout in 2022 was 17%. Our by-mail and drop-box returns in 2018 was 94%, and this year it was 97%, so we've increased on how many people choose to use drop boxes and by-mail. Our in-person went down. It was 5% in 2018, and it's now 2%. And our undeliverable rate also went down. It was 3% in 2018, and it's now 1.44%. Within the report in front of you, you have the total number of votes cast, which was the 29,533. I also, if you would like, have the names, offices, and total number of votes for each candidate. I can read those aloud for you as well. And then I've given the number of ballots not counted and why. So what can I get to now? Would you like me to read out each candidate and their total votes?
I don't think we need that.
No.
Got it in front of us.
Okay. So we do have some questions. First question I have, that you talked about spoiled ballots of 200.
Mm-hmm.
Those, when you said most of those were because signatures didn't match?
Yeah, 140 of those were signatures didn't match the voter record. So we have 5 basically signatures on file that were previous voter registration forms, driver's licenses, affidavits, and things like that. And it meant that the signature we got back didn't match any of those. We sent all 200, or we had 375 ballots that originally needed to be cured. 171 of them were, and the 200 were the ones that weren't. All 375 voters were given a letter in the mail stating why their ballot wasn't counted and how they could correct it before today.
That's very good. That's exactly the answer I wanted, is the fact that you do make an effort.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, secondly, to Ms.
If I may, will the numbers that you alluded to be available to the public?
Yep, they're all going to
Jim
get posted.
Owens.
We're going to post all of them today after the meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, to Ms. Wyndham's question, she asked specifically, were you in the room when, okay, that's good, if you were in the room. So she says when the machines were turned on, that there instantly came up counts on it.
So we scanned before Election Day. We have the full election period to begin scanning ballots. So we started to do some of them, which is why those vote totals were in there. And then on Election Day itself, which is what Cindy was able to view,
Right.
was just the ones that came in over that last big long weekend and then that day.
So the number she
9,000.
viewed and questioned that came up had been previously counted and loaded.
Yep, they were already ones that we had received by mail or in a drop box.
When they were counted, did you have election observers in the room?
But all of our schedules have been posted at least a week in advance of what our processes were each day.
So it was open to the public?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So, Ms. Wyndham, did you have your question answered?
No.
Okay.
It's the same thing, that's what Ricky told me.
Oh,
And yet he told Daniel Vidal, who was also there at 6 o'clock in the evening, and he had to leave. He told him the machines had been calibrated and then not used until election day. So there's a conflict of interest.
So, to her question, because it hasn't been used, does that mean it wasn't preloaded
I'm
with those
wondering
numbers?
if this was just a miscommunication error, and I wasn't there when Ricky said that, and I don't want to speak for
Sure,
Ricky.
sure. That makes sense.
But we did scan ahead of time. We are statutorily allowed to, and we did post that online. So I'm not sure where the miscommunication came from between you and Ricky. I'm so sorry.
It's not between Ricky and me, it's what he told Daniel.
Okay, and I wasn't there. I can't speak to
So
what he
is
said.
Daniel here?
No, he's at work, but Daniel's in charge of the Weaver County 76ers as a website, and we all communicate constantly. And when I said this is what I witnessed today for everybody, and I just, the facts only,
Yeah.
what we had, what happened, and this, the votes were already loaded, and they did them on Friday. That's when Daniel Vidal, he called me, we don't call it, he called me, he said, Ricky lied. He lied to me. He said that the machine had not been used and wouldn't be used until election day. They had calibrated it, and then that was it. Now, I will say, when I was there, I was there from like 1 o'clock, and I went home from lunch, and then I was there till 8:30. They were using the machine all through the day, as they were putting the ballots through after they'd been signature checked and counted. So I watched that happen on election day. They didn't only count after 8 o'clock at night, but he had told Daniel that the machines had not been used until election day. That's where Daniel's information and my information conflict with each other, is that how can you have, and it's just a proportion of those votes literally matches what the newspaper reported would be the vote when they did a canvass, and then what the vote turned out to be. It's almost like predicted and come true, and the votes that were loaded at that time was like preset. In my mind, it was just suspicious that, first of all, there was a conflict of information, and then it just doesn't seem like it would be wise practice to do any scanning when there's no witnesses that are not part of the DH scheme.
Of course,
It was open to
it
the
was
public.
open,
I understand
just
that,
nobody
but we don't
came.
know that there were, there's many of us who communicated like be here, be here, be here.
Right.
There was during a communication that said, we need to be there because they're going to scan early. I guess what I'm basically saying is there needs to be that piece of information addressed, or that practice addressed in the future, because I'm now suspicious about those preloaded votes.
Yeah, so Lauren, let me ask you this, to her question. Were any votes loaded when the times were not open?
We did everything according to our processing schedule, so we
Okay.
weren't open before 8 or 5 in those days, up until pretty much
Right.
election day, but all of what we did had to be, by statute, posted ahead of time.
Great,
So any of that stuff
Okay.
was available to the public.
very good. Thank you very much. Questions on her report, Commissioners?
I have a comment.
Yeah,
No
go ahead.
question. You know, before this, knowing that there was some questions asked with regards to this, I'm grateful for the time I spent down there beforehand. You had invited the public to come down and take a look at the processes. I took advantage of that, and it was very interesting. 6, 7 years ago, as a first-time candidate ever, to go through that and to find out what's happening. This is yet another canvas that I'll have the privilege of being able to participate in. But I hear about different things in the news, different things going on, but I don't see those practices taking place here. Lauren, you and your team, as far as I'm concerned, are to be commended with regards to what goes on. I think your communication is good. I'd like to see, and while it's not part of what you do, I'd like to see a little friendlier. I know the information's there on your website, but for me, I wish I were a little better at navigating through that website. It's a little more cumbersome. You can find it, but it takes me longer.
Yeah.
That's nothing to do with you guys, and we'll maybe work on that with Quinn and them on how it makes that just a little easier and friendly to find, and so those schedules that you talked about, Cindy, could be more easily found well in advance. Those things are published far in advance. And so there's nothing to hide. There's no reason why we wouldn't have people come and look in advance. It makes sense to me that you would load, as the statute allows, those ballots to be loaded in advance, but I know they get all dropped and nobody sees anything until really that first thing pops up. And then those of us who are either here, you get a little earlier notice that are here, but those of us who look online, then they're uploaded, and that's how I understand it. And I think our processes here in Weber County are very good, at least from my personal observation that I've seen. But that's being prepared. I get prepared before the day of, so that I can, because there's too much going on that day. It's too much for me to absorb. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You know, hold on. It's interesting that you talk this way. When I ran for commission the first time, I remember sitting in here, and the numbers were being broadcasted on that wall. We're all sitting, waiting, you know, for the first broadcast. And of course, it comes up, the very first one. And to Cindy's point, I was behind right off the bat. And I was behind substantially, and I thought, well, there you go. The night's gone. I've lost. And as the night went on, the numbers closed, but I never did come ahead. And this was for when I ran for Senate, not for the commission. Yeah. And I thought, well, my night's gone. I'm beat. Well, it got down to where I was about 300 votes behind on the last post of the night come out, and I won. I was like, wow, how did I win on 300? You know, that was as big a change as all night long. And it's like, well, how could that have happened? That was impossible. So when it was all said and done, a few days later, I got hold of them, and we talked about it, and they looked at what the last posting was. Well, it turns out the last post to come through is from Plain City. Well, I'm from Plain City, so of course I took a larger sum there, and that kind of surprised me. But that's it's what it is. And of course, I didn't recognize it because I was a new candidate at the time. But as soon as they seen it, they knew right who was what it was. So anyway, those kind of things happen. Well, any other? Oh, you had a point of information, yes, sir.
Yeah. Jim Owens, Riverdale 4 Precinct Chair. Of the it sounds like less than 15,000 votes that first popped up on the screen, how long would that have taken to process that night after 8 o'clock rather than processing early? And what is the advantage of processing early when there were no observers there versus waiting until the candidates and the interested public had their representatives in the room to be able to observe? How much longer would it have taken to process those less than 15,000 votes? And is there really an advantage to processing early as a result of this?
Great question. We never know what our volume's going to be. We sent out 68,000 ballots, and we only got 29,000 returned. On election day, we could have gotten quadruple the amount in return that we hadn't have anticipated. That's usually why we process early, is because we don't know. We want to get the bulk of our ballots out as of that day, posted and results online by like 8 p.m. So we process early to ensure that whatever the volume is that comes in over that weekend and on election day can all be processed in time for results to go up at 8 o'clock. Does that answer your question?
How long would it take to have processed those 15,000 votes?
If we had waited until election night not knowing the volume, probably another hour, so they may not have made it into that result posting. But again, I can't gauge how many people are going to vote over the weekend and put them in drop boxes
Sure,
and in
we
the mail.
understand that. But
So-
to his point, the jump you take, to try to get ahead of it, and I understand why you do that. Everybody does, because they want to be done on election night. The advantage you gain by doing that is about an hour.
Just for scanning the results.
Right.
The full process of when those ballots reach our office to when they're scanned and tabulated is roughly a day.
A day.
Delayed it maybe 24.
So you
Well-
could have done all the processing, just not counted the ballots prior to 8 p.m.
So we
and
could-
then had them ready to go, or even start at, say, 7 p.m. or 6 p.m. when observers were there, ready to watch, and then you could have started at 6 p.m. I remember they used to have the elections in my house when I was a kid. I put together the election booths for Mom, an election judge, and as a result, they would take the ballot box at about 6 p.m. into Mom's bedroom with the election judges and observers, and they would start counting with the proviso that none of the results would be made known to anyone other than those in the room until polls officially closed.
So,
Would that not be a better way to do it so that there is clear and open processing rather than doing something when, although we were invited but not present?
Jim, you've got to address us, not her. Okay, so you've got the question.
So all of our processes have to be timed to be able to be completed on time. And so we could have held those scanned ballots back until election night. But again, when we get ballots in, they have to be detabbed. They have to go through our first pass on our scanner. We physically have our election judges go through and do signature verification. Then our full-time staff does signature verification. Then they go through a second pass on that big Agilis scanner. Then they're opened and removed and unfolded and then put through that tabulation scanner. So that little group that we're referring to had to go through all those steps theoretically that day before getting there.
Right.
So we could have held them, but we just had to guess off the information we had, which was we could get 20,000 ballots back in the mail on Monday and Tuesday,
Sure.
and we just had to gauge
Yeah,
what our processing
we
time
understand.
was.
All right, Mrs. Owens, or Wyndham?
The only process I didn't see was that beautiful machine that ran, that sorted in the batches. I watched the signature process, I watched the machine open the ballots and come out. They did not fire up the actual counting machine until about 6 o'clock p.m.
Okay.
Fire them up an hour earlier, 2 hours earlier. Not do it the Friday before, because that makes me have suspicious thoughts in my mind, and I no longer have faith or trust in our election.
Good point. All right, so Lauren,
Nothing anybody can say that's going to change that, because when I saw those numbers come up, I thought, oh my word, preloaded, we know who's going to win.
Lauren, thank you. So that's a good suggestion. You might pass that
That's
along.
great. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. We appreciate that. All right, so Commissioners, this now stands in front of us. With either of you care to make a motion?
Well, Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I want a question for council. So I think we have to convene as the Weber County Board of Canvassers to
Correct.
make this. So do we need an official motion on that? To
I would just
convene?
stay on make sure that the minutes indicate that this is now an official action of the Weber County Board of Canvassers, and once this starts, it cannot stop. You can adjourn from day to day until it's complete, but now it's the Board of Canvassers.
Okay. Mr. Chair, I would make a motion as a board member of the Weber County Board of Canvassers, certification of the results of the June 28th, 2022 primary election, as presented by our Ms. Schaefer this morning.
So the motion was to approve,
Approve.
Second,
as a member of that board.
as a member of the Board of Canvassers.
All right, as a member of the Board of Canvassers, then we have a motion and a second to approve the canvass. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye?
Aye. It's unanimous. Thank you very much, Lauren. We appreciate you being here today, and thanks for your knowledge and expertise in this. And you'll make sure those comments get back to Ricky.
Yep, absolutely.
Very good.
Thank you.
All right. Next item up is request for approval of contract between Weber County and Zions Public Finance to update the county's impact fee, sewer, storm drain, roads, and pathways fees. Mr. Meyerhofer.
Yeah, Commissioners, what you have before you today is the contract between Zions Public Finance to do our impact fee facilities plan and impact fee analysis update to our plan. So we put this out for proposals. We had 2 consultants propose on it, and Zions Public Finance was the successful candidate through the procurement process. So what we're looking at is a contract in the amount of about $58,983 to do this work. Those funds will come out of our current impact fees that we do have, and they're looking at having that done by the end of this year. So,
Very good. Questions, Commissioners?
None for me.
None from me.
Ready for a motion?
Mr. Chair, I'll make that motion that we approve the contract between Weber County and Zions Public Finance for the stormwater and roads and sewer fees.
Second.
All right, we have motion second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye?
Aye, that passes. Thanks, Chad. Item 3 on the agenda today is approval of a resolution of the County Commission, Weber County, appointing members to the West Weber Planning Commission. Mr. Rick Grover.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
We have 3 planning commissioners for you to consider for filling vacancies. We have 4 people who have applied
Hold on,
for that.
say that again.
We have
3 positions.
Okay, on the
there you
Western Weber Planning Commission, and we have 4 people who have applied. Those people are Andrew Favero, Bren Edwards, Louis Decker, and Wayne Andriotti for your consideration.
Thank you. Commissioners, questions?
I don't have any questions with regards to this.
No questions for me.
Nor I. I'm ready for a motion then.
Mr. Chair, 4 great candidates, but I'd move for the reappointment of Andrew Favero, Brent Edwards, and Wayne Andriotti back on the Western Weber Planning Commission.
Second.
Okay, I have motion and second. And so for these 3, these 3 that you've made the motion on, those are reappointments because they serve there today.
Correct.
Correct.
Very good. Okay.
It's a resolution.
I was going to say, isn't this a resolution?
It is a resolution. Number 35-2022. We're ready.
Okay, roll call vote for Resolution 35-2022. Commissioner Farrar.
Aye.
Commissioner Harvey.
Aye.
Chair Jenkins.
Aye. Very good, that passes. Item 4 we're holding. So item 5 is a request for approval of contract between Weber County and Victus Advisors to provide the Golden Spike Center with a feasibility study. Duncan Olson.
I'm going to present that, if I may,
Ray,
Mr.
go
Chair.
ahead.
They are all at a Utah Association of Venue Management. Many of our people are being certified there. So I want you to know that this has been held in conjunction with Jason Horn's office. There were 3 groups that presented. Victus is actually the one that won the bid, the proposals. Part of the reason they won is because of price. They were quite a bit less expensive, but their approach is all data-driven from what I've been told and what their records show. They have a wide range. They're going to get a wide range of participants from the entire county, part of this, and they were, in fact, when I said they were quite a bit cheaper, they were $40,000 less. The process will take just over 4 months. At least 16 weeks. They're going to do a full study and report the dynamics of the entire Weber County. They'll look at the trends in the industry locally, regionally, and nationally. They'll look at future projections in those trends, and they'll also survey not just the customers at large, but our staff and community members. So it's with the staff recommendation from Duncan, Jennifer, and Marty that we go ahead and approve Victus to do that feasibility study on the fairgrounds.
So is that a motion?
I wanted to make sure you didn't have any questions before I made a motion.
No question. No question.
And with that, Mr. Chair, as the presenter, but also I would make a motion that we approve the contract by between Weber County and Victus to provide that feasibility study for the Golden Spike Event Center.
And I'd second that with the comment.
Please.
I'm just happy to see this go forward. This is something that this feasibility study, the vision that we need to see out there for the future. If we need to change any venues out there, if we need to increase the venues, reduce the venues, it's great to have the public weigh in on this. And this will give the public, as I understand it, Commissioner, the opportunity to be heard for those current users and potentially future users.
Mm-hmm.
Is that correct?
You'll notice that's correct, and I'll answer that question if I can, Mr. Chair. We've heard a lot because of the annotation on the license to use the west parking area, what that would happen if the language were changed federally on that license, what we'd have to do to reconfigure. And so I've kept all those notes. A lot of people, when they comment and they come in, I keep them in a file in case we ever need to go back there. So the people who send in comments, you don't necessarily get them all answered. There have been hundreds on this one for the cross-country course. Of course, we know that there are only 3 weekends a year that gets used. There's some schooling out there. So there is some impact, but it is what it is. And so I've kept that, and now I'm going to forward the information from them. They'll be contacted so they have a chance to have input on there as well. But that's there and a lot of others. I mean, there'll be literally thousands of barrel racers and team ropers, but also people who are interested in gold shows or mining shows or home and garden shows or basketball or, I mean, all this different types of stuff that goes on out there.
Great. Appreciate what you do.
Thank you. So with that, that was my motion, and then you second that?
I did.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye?
Aye. It passes. Very good. Item 6 is request for final approval of Winston Park Subdivision, a planned residential unit of 54. Tammy Adelette. Sorry,
Very
I
good.
butchered you last time, Tammy.
Not the first time.
Yeah, hopefully it'll be the last.
It's like
good
Jim
morning.
Owens. That's a weird Korean name I haven't, hear often.
It took me a few years to take that one from my husband, actually, so. You have before you a request for final approval for Winston Park PRUD subdivision. A little bit of background on this 54-unit subdivision. This is located in the A1 zone. It's located about 3700 west, 1800 south. It does include a couple of open space parcels, which will be used for excuse me, a public trail, fire road, some pasture area, a drainage basin, and then there's a small common area that will include some turf grass there for the use of the subdivision. This came before you in January of last year, where their conditional use permit was approved by the County Commission for this PRUD development. And then in May of last year, this project went before the Planning Commission for a recommendation of final approval. The recommendation actually was denied by the Planning Commission because they didn't have their final approval letters for water. They have secured those, and so it's coming before you now for final approval. Do you have any questions at this time? And I'll give you a little more information if you'd like.
I have a question, Ms. Adelot.
Yes.
The open space that was you commented on, how will that be maintained into perpetuity?
It will be maintained by the HOA. We have a copy of the CC&Rs from the developer, and those will be recorded with the subdivision.
So it'll be the HOA's responsibility moving forward. You said the open space, and there'd also be some community area, I think. Community or
Common area.
Common area.
So it's laid out on their plat as a common area, open space A and open space B. Open space A will include the fire road for emergency egress. There is only one access in off of 1800 right now. It also includes a walking trail in there and a drainage basin. And then open space B includes some pasture area that will be fenced off and leased for some dry grazing.
Great. I don't have any other questions, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
This subdivision will create 5 additional county roadways. So this request comes also with a request to accept dedication of 5 new county roadways, as well as, I thought there was one other thing on here, perhaps not. Either way, the developers are here if you have any questions, but they have met all of the requirements for final approval. We have a final plat in, we have their CC&Rs, we have their development agreement, or excuse me, their improvements guarantee agreement, which is also included in the staff report. Do you have any other questions for me at this time?
I don't have any questions either.
No, sounds like everything, all the documentation's
Yeah.
been submitted that's required, so.
Just one comment.
Yeah.
On those new roadways coming in, would any of the turns have a more of a banked embankment for something like an Audi R8 to be able to circle at a high speed or anything like that?
We did drive through the development on Friday in a county car. So
Okay,
we tried to keep the speeds a little low. I didn't see anything like that in there, but,
Just wondered.
okay.
It's a German car. That's all, I just was curious.
Wishful thinking.
Thank you, Tammy.
My favorite.
All right, I'm ready for a motion.
Motion to approve the presentation by Tammy Adelot consisting of 54 residential acres and called the Winston Park Subdivision of Planned Residential Unit of PRU.
Second.
Very good, you have a motion second, all in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Very good, it's approved. Item 7 is request for approval of a contract by to Weaver County, State of Utah Governor's Office of Economic Opportunity for outdoor recreation grants.
Commissioners, I am very pleased
Stephanie Russell.
I'm very pleased to announce that we have applied for and received a grant of $81,540.36 to be used for our second phase of trail finding signage. And this contract outlines the terms and conditions of us receiving and exercising that grant.
Very good.
Awesome.
That's great,
That is
Steph.
great news. Wonderful.
That is very good news.
I agree.
Questions, commissioners?
When you're ready to accept a motion,
Right now.
I'll make that motion that we approve this grant that was provided by GOEO and for the outdoor recreation and the wayfinding.
And I'd second that with the comment.
Yes.
So, you know, and I, again, appreciate Ms. Russell's work on getting this grant put through the GoEd, Go Utah as we call it now. It's good to see that this Governor's Office of Economic Opportunity is reaching out with the various communities, the counties, and making sure that the resources necessary for not only economic development, but for recreation, which becomes a big part of what we want in Utah, combined with the jobs, with employment, everything else that comes. So I would just congratulate the Governor's Office on the good work and Ms. Russell for putting forth this grant.
Steph, we appreciate all you do there.
If we don't ask for it, we don't get it.
That's right. You've done a good job since you've been here, and we appreciate that. And this speaks to the quality of life, these trails and
It does.
signs
It
and
really
all
does
that.
add to our efforts to build community here and bring people here that want to live, work, and play here. So
You
it is
bet.
it is a big part of economic development as well as community development.
Very good. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. That passes. Thanks.
Thank you.
Very good. So Commissioner comments? Do either of you have anything you'd like to say?
I'll go to one thing. I really appreciate the extra effort that's being done in our economic development group right now. Whether it's Commissioner Ford being in your portfolio, I've seen a marked difference in not just what's happening with because of that position change, but also with the Northern Utah Economic Alliance and the coordination within the staff. The communication that takes place in all the different areas, it's going really good, and we're really fortunate to round out the professionalism that we have going on. There's a lot of good momentum moving forward. It rounds out, as if Weber County Corporation is run as a business, it rounds out that department quite nicely. Thank you.
It does, and it's really great to see the Northern Utah Economic Development Alliance come together. It's been a work in progress, but Stephanie and Chris Royball and Alex and that whole group working with EDC Utah, again, it's a coordinated effort, and really our efforts are directed toward bringing jobs and opportunities to Weber County that make sense for Weber County. We don't accept everything. We don't want every potential company coming in, but we want those that fit in with the Weber County way of life, and I think that's where we're headed.
I agree. Agreed. Very good. All right, so item I, Chris Crockett, is this you? Do you have we have a closed meeting scheduled here?
Yes, it is one, and we have Scott Mendeza who will be joining us in that close
Very
meeting.
good. So with that, I'd accept a motion to close this meeting and go into a closed session.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Very good. So we're closing this meeting, and we're going to walk into the next room. This has to do with purchase of property, exchange, or lease real property. And we expect to be back in 15 or 20 minutes if you'd care to wait. So for right now, the meeting's closed.